Hey everybody, welcome back after our lunch break. Again, I'm Lauren Zichterman, coming to you from Madison, Wisconsin. With great excitement and admiration, I'd like to introduce our next presenter, JP Miller. JP is the program's lead and curriculum manager at an organization that is very dear to my heart, Maydem. Maydem is a Madison-based organization that works with middle and high school students, especially girls and youths of color, to prepare them for careers in STEM. Through mentoring, internships, and workshops, Madem works with students to demystify technology and programming while instilling confidence to become innovators. I've had the pleasure of volunteering as a mentor with Madem and still often draw day-to-day inspiration from the extraordinarily intelligent and creative students they're developing. Above and beyond JP's work with Madem, he's a father, entrepreneur, career coach, and mentor. Today, he'll be teaching us about training a diverse student body for careers in tech. Thank you for sharing this important initiative, JP. Turning it over to you.
Programs lead at Maydem. We are a nonprofit operating in Dane and Milwaukee counties. We introduce rising 6th to 12th grade girls and youth of color to STEM-related skills and introduce our high school students to internship opportunities. Last year, we served 503 students, and I'm proud to report that even with all the craziness and the disruption of 2020, we have been able to serve 527 youth this year, making a record-setting year for our organization. This year, 95% of our students have been youth of color and 60% were female. A supermajority of students we work with said they are interested to learn more about STEM after participating in our programs. At Maydem, my colleagues and I are actively working to promote underrepresented students for STEM internships. The work is important to us because we perceive that STEM sectors have an opportunity to become more inclusive in their product development, services, and hiring practices. STEM is the fuel of innovation and the driver of growing our economy. And consequently, it also includes some of the best salaries in our country. Now, STEM jobs have grown faster than any other sector in the past few decades. Did you know that STEM jobs in Wisconsin are expected to grow by 8% between 2017 and 2027, whereas all other jobs will grow at about half of that rate? Additionally, STEM-related occupations pay double than other occupations in Wisconsin. In 2017, the median STEM employee earned $35.03 an hour, while the median earnings for all other occupations was just under $18 an hour. Unemployment in STEM is far lower as well. Again, in 2017, unemployment in STEM-related roles was a mere 1.3%, whereas the state's average unemployment rate was 4.6%. Of course, with COVID, lives are being disrupted, jobs have been furloughed, and the unemployment rate has jumped precipitously. And while I don't have hard numbers for the current climate, we know that employees in STEM sectors have not been hit as hard as non-STEM employees. Plus, unlike the so-called essential workers, most STEM employees are able to work remotely. Now, employment in STEM is outpacing other sectors, has higher wages and lower unemployment, and it offers a safer work from home arrangement than many other sectors. However, our society is not producing enough talent to meet the demand for STEM employers. In fact, supply is losing ground to expanding demand annually. We lose potential talent at every level of education as well. 88% of our students graduate high school. Only 68% of students who enter higher education graduate. And of those, only 27% of certificates and degrees are for STEM-related fields. And these numbers are for the general populace. When we begin to dip into the details, as we're about to do, we'll find a stark contrast for females and people of color. And we found that we need to inspire students to pursue STEM subjects while they were young in order to retain and fuel that interest in high school and beyond. And unfortunately, we're failing to enable our students with a proficient understanding of critical subjects such as math and science. If we're not able to help students find proficiency and confidence in STEM subjects by the time they're in 4th grade or 8th at the latest, then there's little chance that they'll ever catch that spark. Now, we can see the correlation in proficiency in grade school with students pursuing STEM subjects in college. So this slide that's up currently, we see that about half of all white students are proficient in math and science. Not a great number, but that's our baseline. You look at the Hispanic students, and they're roughly 25% proficient in math and sciences. There's no other way to say that we're failing our Black students when the most proficient levels that we have are 14% of Black students are proficient in math and sciences. And we can also look at these numbers of proficiency by food security. So related to income in the aspect of, are these students enrolled in free or reduced food programs, lunch programs, right? And so for those students who are not in a free or reduced lunch program, we would say they're more likely to have food security. We're still experiencing about 50% baseline, which again is not great, but it's what it currently is. When you compare to students who are food insecure, they don't necessarily know where the next meal is coming from. At best, 1 in 3 of those students are proficient. And we look at the numbers, it's closer to 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 students are proficient. And we see these numbers correlated when you start looking at underrepresented minorities earning computer degrees. And so here we see of all the underrepresented minorities, currently about 18% are enrolled in computing degrees. And as a percentage of degrees being earned, it's only 8% when you factor the numbers in that way. And so we've seen that we've never had more than 10% of our underrepresented students pursuing a degree or a certificate in a STEM subject. And so we see this carrying forth from grade school in 4th grade up to 8th grade through high school, and these trends follow all the way through bachelor degrees, graduate degrees, and we'll see here in a second into careers. So the quantitative data is showing a clear achievement gap. Now, females in computer sciences continue to decrease. In engineering, the workforce is only comprised of 14% of females. Now, we also see interesting trends in the STEM workforce when we look at demographics by ethnicity. So now we're seeing these trends even in the workforce. A national push for students to enter STEM has been circulating for a number of years. So what's going on? We can still see that whites and Asians are overrepresented, and African Americans and Latinx communities are underrepresented. If we were to break down the ethnicity by males and females, we would find that representation of female African Americans and Hispanics are almost non-existent. You look in those numbers, at the most of 3%. So does a lack of representation really matter? Does it matter to our society? Is it important? Well, the short answer is yes, it matters, and it's very important. It's very important to our society and to our communities. See, if we fail to invigorate a wider population in the pursuit of scientific discoveries, then we will experience a regression in our economy. Remember, STEM is the innovation, and innovation is the driver of our current economy. And if we start slowing down the machine of that innovation, we regress our economy. And we'll also see a continued rise in scientism. And just as the Alexandrians burned the greatest library of the ancient world, so we will lose the hard-fought technological progress that we have earned. A disenfranchised people have little incentive to uphold the pillars of the system. And we're currently witnessing the consequence of biased systems in our society. On the other side of the coin, we have citizens who do feel enfranchised, and yet they lack the sufficient knowledge to understand technology, right? Even 50% of our white students at the very best, or 50% of students who are not enrolled in free or reduced lunch programs are not proficient in math and sciences. And as a result, we have to deal with these conspiracy theories of like the world is flat, or the moon landing was faked, or chemtrails are some kind of a conspiracy, or global warming is a hoax. And these are both consequences, or both of these consequences are symptoms of the same problem. Dr. Kenneth Gibbs, the director of the Postdoctoral Research Associate Training at the National Institute of General Medical Sciences, once said, "The large and persistent underrepresentation of certain social groups from STEM fields represents the loss of talent. Chronic and woeful underrepresentation in the workforce leads to the inescapable conclusion that we are missing critical contributors to our talent pool." We are in need of more scientists than ever before in order to continue driving innovation and growth in our economy. In the same moment in history, this same moment, Caucasians are soon to experience a shrinkage in demographics. The nation will be minority white by 2045. And in fact, the youngest generation, those who are 18 or younger, if you have minors at home or nieces or nephews, they are already living in a minority white society by their age group. If we continue to ignore and discourage Black, brown, and female talent, then we'll exponentially exacerbate the problems of talent supply and lose out on the technological contributions of individuals of diverging backgrounds and experiences. So at Maydm, we are addressing this issue by recruiting corporate and community allies and helping young people of diverse backgrounds to recognize themselves as makers of technology. We have created portfolio-based programs with the intention of training students with career-ready, hard technical, and soft interpersonal skills. Our students are amazing. Most of our first-year students don't have coding experience, but by the end of the respective immersive programs, they all gain this confidence to write their own programs and talk to donors and their mentors and other visitors about apps that they create. And when I think of future of engineers, I think of these students and how much they want and deserve a place in the fascinating and highly rewarding fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Last summer, we trained 10 high school students to learn Java and Android Studio. This is summer of 2019, where this picture is from. The students committed to rigorous full-day schedule over a period of 5 weeks. And by the end of the 5th week, students were building apps together and converting binary to hexadecimal to base 10 on the whiteboard in front of an audience. These students were brilliant. And many returned for the summer. Last year, I went to visit these students one of the last week, and a couple of them were playing games on their phones. And I said, "Hey, don't you have like maybe a program to build? I don't know if it's break time, but you know, the students are working." And he looked up and he said, "Oh, I built this with my buddy right here." Like, "Oh, well, continue to test your app." Now, these students were absolutely amazing, and they had done so much in 5 weeks. And after enrolling in our immersive program, our students felt confident to enroll in AP computer science classes. Since then, two of our students were accepted to Madison College's STEM Academy, which is where they go to our local community college. And during their junior and senior year of high school, they study at the college, on the campus, and they simultaneously earn a high school diploma and an Associate of Sciences. It's fantastic. This summer, in spite of the pandemic, we took the next big step in diversifying tech. One of our students, Brandon, he's the young man in the red shirt, the shorter of the two. He successfully applied and interviewed for Madison area local startup Image Mover MD, where he developed and updated the user interface for Image Mover's Android and iOS apps. His internship was an outstanding success and it earned him the respect of the CEO and his colleagues. And that's not all he did this summer. Brandon also earned college level credits with the UW, where he took a series of engineering classes. Now he's a rising star with enormous potential and promise, and he's not the only one. We also recruited 4 high school students to design a custom website for a client project. These 4 students learned what it was like to work in a remote development environment with their individual responsibilities, expectations, and strict schedules. Now, our team of 4 front-end developers attended 100% of their scheduled shifts. They exhibited confidence in their skills, and I trusted them to complete their objectives in a reasonable amount of time. Next summer, our cohort of 5 will be ready for new internship opportunities, and they will be joined by members of the 2020 cohort as interns as well. So this summer, in spite of COVID, we offered high school students 8 weeks of training in SolidWorks in a virtual classroom setting. SolidWorks is computer-assisted design software. It's CAD. It's similar to AutoCAD. Our students met the challenges of virtual learning environment and learned the complexities of CAD modeling with their dedicated instructors, both of whom happen to be UW engineering students. And as an aside, all 5 of our instructors that we were fortunate to work with this summer were female UW engineering and computer science students. They were our first picks in our talent pool and were by far the best candidates of all the potential instructors that we were able to interview. It was an honor to work with them. SolidWorks is not simple software, especially in a virtual remote learning environment where these students were one-on-one with their computer and Zoom calls, and any kind of troubleshooting they needed to do was through a screen share. But our students committed themselves to learning the intricacies of the program, and 4 were able to earn their CSWA, which is a certificate as a SolidWorks associate. This is a certificate that is held by fewer than 500,000 professionals globally. And 4 of those are right here in Madison, and they are under the age of 18. Our students earn their skills through hard work and by consistently showing up to do the work. By the end of every program, our students have a portfolio to showcase to friends, family members, and potential employers. Next summer, these 4 students will be ready to work with manufacturing and drafting companies that utilize SolidWorks or similar programming. Our students do not look like the stereotypical engineer, but they have just as much potential as the current talent pool. The talent pipeline is changing, and the most responsive companies will stand to profit for recognizing this trend. This year has been an incredibly challenging year, but despite all the obstacles, our students have proven their skills, desire, and ability to work in the industry. The success stories have been so powerful that our corporate partners have committed to taking on our projected available talent for next summer. Now, Maydm students have proven their brilliance time and time again, and I expect that this is only the beginning. Quality, portfolio-based curricula will create students that are prepared with real-world employable skills. And when employers find our students to be curious, enthusiastic, and capable, they will undoubtedly desire to expand their internship programs. And our students, once they realize the sense of achievement that's possible from building technical products and services, they'll be drawn to learn and experience more, not to mention the advanced pay salaries that a student can experience as compared to jobs that we traditionally think of when we think of high school employment. I am optimistic for the future, and that I'm optimistic that when you think of an engineer or a developer, you'll think of the girls and youth of color that we work with at Madem. It's been said that everything is created twice, first in the mind and then with the hands. In truth, to scale this concept, we must imagine girls and youth of color as capable of becoming engineers. Before we ever work together, I see all of my students as engineers, developers, and designers. By the end of our programs, most of our students can imagine themselves as the same. If we can imagine our girls and youth of color as engineers in our minds, then we can create the opportunity to expand and diversify the talent pool. I used to say that the first step to training diverse student bodies for a career in tech was education. But I've since realized that the first step is helping students imagine themselves as a STEM professional, because anything that is accomplished must first be imagined. We share our student success stories to inspire new cohorts to enroll in AP computer science classes, or to apply for programs like the STEM Academy, or to join a robotics club at their school. And the more stories of success that we're able to share, the easier it will become for other young people to believe in their most unreasonable goals. One of the young ladies that worked on our client project this summer shared an experience she had at an MMSD elementary school. She shared the story of being in 4th grade and being told that she couldn't be a web designer because girls don't work in those kind of roles. But then she found Maydm, and she said it felt great to be able to prove that teacher wrong and to be witness to the fact that women can do what men do in STEM or otherwise. And we've talked about the challenge that traditionally underrepresented students face in entering STEM, how STEM sectors will create more opportunity than other sectors, and how Madem is diversifying the talent pool. I'd like to take a moment to address detractors who may feel that this isn't an important issue. Now, there are some detractors that say, no one is encouraging girls to become trash men, sanitary engineers. And the first thing I would say is that sanitation falls inside the realm of environmental engineering. And we are, in fact, encouraging girls and youth of color to enter all engineering fields. Sure, there's not a lot of excitement about diversifying the pool of the actual trash collectors driving and operating the big trucks. And there's a reason for that, a good reason. Well, the fact remains that there are only very few industries where a team of 20 to 25 people can affect the habits and behaviors of billions of people globally. Currently, most of these engineers and behavioral designers are white males, and they're shaping our world. They're shaping the way we interact with one another, the way we think. They're even moving the sway of elections. Their shared experiences are limited to their bubbles as predominantly white males. And as a result, when those engineers build a product, they are very likely to, and have been documented to, focus on the very narrow range of problems experienced by white men. Consequently, the vast majority of the world's population's programs have been ignored, especially women's issues, and especially those issues that are experienced by women of minority ethnicities. 90% of America is online, and 50% of the global population is connected to the internet in some fashion. If we are going to create an inclusive, interconnected network, then we need an inclusive and diverse workforce of STEM professionals. If we don't go out of our way to tell Asian and white males that they can't be engineers, then why make it a point to snub the aspirations of women and traditionally underrepresented people of color? Other people tend to think that employment in engineering fields is a zero-sum game. Like, if candidate A is hired, then candidate B can't find work. And that might be true on the micro scale for that particular position or that particular company. But until general AI takes over every engineering job and every other job, the more engineers that are created, the more we will need. Technology drives innovation and is driving job creation. In the very near future, there will be occupations that no one has today. Advanced economies will need jobs in renewable energies that are not abundant today. There will be a need for robotic and AI technicians. There'll be positions for crews to monitor autonomous asteroid mining operations, drone repair technicians, and armies of hackers will be employed across the world's governments. And that one we're already seeing. But furthermore, the more people that understand technology, the less prone to technological abuse communities will be. And the more likely communities will have representation in startups and large tech firms. Perhaps the theme that excites me the most is the prospect of Maydm students deciding to found their own startups and employing promising female engineers and engineers of color, quickening that positive feedback loop of creating an inclusive and diversified STEM force. And maybe, just maybe, their startups will provide job security for me when I'm an old man. Well, if you'd like to learn more about how you can be an advocate for girls and youth of color interested in STEM, or maybe you're our hiring manager that's committed to diversifying your workforce, then let's continue this conversation via email. Talk to me at john.miller@maydm.org or say hello@maydm.org. You can learn more about us by visiting maydm.org. Thank you.
So wonderful, JP. Thank you so much for sharing. You mentioned Brandon, and I had the pleasure of working very briefly with Brandon. So it's awesome to hear that update. And I know that students who work with Maydm are getting so much out of it. So thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Speaking of that, how do you get students interested to learn more about Maydm? How do you approach schools? And then furthermore, how do you encourage students to stick with the program at Maydm?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, we would go to the schools, we would talk to community organizations. In this current environment, we relied on our newsletter. We created this initiative in the spring called Make with Maydm, where we created weekly exercises and activities in math and coding, and we distribute that through our newsletter. I think that helped generate excitement with our youth and the families that follow us. And we found that this is our 5th year now. In November, we'll be celebrating year 5. And we're just starting to spread, and like parents are starting to hear about our organization from other parents. And our middle school programs were maxed out. And we had, I believe, 16 students that were initially enrolled in the high school program. But we were almost completely maxed out this summer. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. One question that I'm sure is on everybody's mind now is, how can we help? What do you need from the larger tech community to support your work at Maydm?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that you can do. You can support diversity in your own workplace. Look around your workplace and the places that you work. Is it a homogeneous culture there? Are there ways that you can inject some diversity? Another thing for Maydm, you can support us monetarily. In the summertime, we have mentors, so we work with mentors throughout the entire year. It's very important to us that our students are supported, not just for the 5 to 8 weeks in the summertime, but throughout the entire school year. So we recruit mentors that are willing to work with students once a month throughout the school year. And if that's something you might be interested in, you can go to maydm.org and sign up for our newsletter, select yourself as a volunteer, and we'll be in touch with you. We'll be recruiting a new cohort of mentors starting this spring.
Well, like I said, I can speak from experience that Maydm is a fantastic organization to work with, and it's been my honor to introduce you, JP. Thanks again. I'll turn it over to Naveen.
All right. Thank you so much, Lauren. Wow, that was a really interesting talk. Since both of us are women, both of us are so I have like 20 years of professional, been a full stack developer, and looks like you're a software engineer as well. Any thoughts on your experience?
I totally wish I would have had a program like Maydm when I was a kid. I was, really into just playing games on the computer, or like using Google was like, pretty new when I was a kid. So I would have loved to learn more about it, but it never even really occurred to me until I was like 21, ready to look for a career, take some more college classes more seriously. And I was like, you know what, this is like pretty neat. How come I never really heard of this before? So giving those opportunities to young students is totally invaluable. I love to see it.
That is awesome. Awesome. Yep. I got introduced to computers. Ooh, this is a long time ago. Probably, I think I was in high school. Computers were just coming into India. I had my high school education was in India, and then I have a master's degree here and a bachelor's from India. So that's when I got introduced to computers and discovered I just loved it. And that is what got me to this track. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with that.